first of all, October 18th, that's the general availability launch date of both Windows 8.1 and Server 2012. So that's actually going to be when you can buy it. Now, if you have volume licensing, and we'll probably get into this a little bit, you've already had access to it for, what, a couple of weeks, give or take?
RTM, yeah, the final version, but even beta versions back as far as 2 months.
Yeah, that's true. And here's an interesting thing is that there's also a new line of Surface products out. And this is one of those things that creates a little bit of confusion as everybody says, what's a Surface versus a Windows tablet? Surface is a product line from Microsoft. So if you get, for example, I've got my Samsung tablet. This is a Windows Pro tablet. It runs Windows, well, it's actually running 8.1 right now, and it runs it very nicely indeed. Microsoft has their own product line of tablets called the Surface. A Surface Pro and this Windows Pro tablet run the exact same software. It's the manufacturer that drives the Surface versus a non-Surface. And then you also hear about the RT version. The RT is essentially a dummied down chipset, similar to what you find on an iPad or a Droid tablet, that doesn't do as much sophisticated stuff, but it actually lasts longer because it's not as busy, so it has a better battery life, lower price, all that kind of fun stuff. And there's actually a new Surface Pro 2 and Surface RT 2, also called the Surface 2, that's going to be available on October 22nd. And the one thing I find interesting is that Best Buy has a buy your Surface back. So if you want to, you can actually get a trade-in for your original Surface tablet and get a bit of a discount to go to the Surface 2. So why is the Surface 2 better? It's better, faster, stronger. A lot of it has to do with battery life. Supposedly they've done a lot of extensions to that, and there's some better processing power, and yada, yada. It's the next version of the hardware. And they're going to come out with Windows 8.1 just like everybody else is. Also, the Windows Phone 8 is updated. There's a new Azure. For those of you, how many of you are in the corporate IT world? Directly or indirectly? Okay. Azure is essentially your infrastructure as a service, your hosted Active Directory, however you want to define it. Basically, Microsoft's cloud server environment. You're going to see a lot more integration of Azure. Okay, you're already seeing it with some of the Office 365 stuff. You're seeing it with some of the hosted application. It's going to get more than less. Okay, and they're doing that. And then, how many of you have seen the latest version of Star Trek Fox News, where they've got this this new set which looks like the new Star Trek movies? You know, it's all silver. Well, they've got basically all of their news people out there on the actual floor while they're doing the news, working with large Surface tablets. So it's like watching a 2-year-old gerbil on this huge tablet, watching them swipe these screens back and forth. It's kind of entertaining. But anyway, I found that interesting because I don't have a life. One of the things that I do want to point out, why is Microsoft doing this? How many of you are still using XP in Office 2003? Okay, same hands. How many people does Microsoft despise? Same hands. Okay, because you haven't given Microsoft a dime. What's wrong with you guys? You know, you've had a product that's worked very, very nicely since essentially 2003. Office has worked nice, Windows has worked nice. Now, as a side note, there's been a lot of issues with it, a lot of security limitations, a lot of, multiple task performances, blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is I just want to, log on my computer, surf the internet, and create a memo or two. And it worked very, very nicely. Well, around 2008 or so, Microsoft really got aggressive with their upgrades. Between that on the desktop end and SQL 2000, upgrading to 2005 with a 5-year little window there, Microsoft realized that their cash flow situation pretty much stunk. So what they did was they got very aggressive in terms of they're upgrading their products basically on a 4-year cycle. Not everything, but a lot of the Windows products and like SQL, Exchange, so on and so forth. They're now coming out with a primary version or release like Vista, Server 2008, and then 2 years later, there is going to be a next version. And then 2 years after that, a major upgrade. And then 2 years after that. Why? Because that way, you get it in your head that you need the latest version. And they're going to make it easier because between versions of methods of licensing and renting the software as a subscription service and the like, it's not going to be anywhere near as much money up front, but it will be more money for Microsoft moving forward. So those of you who were keeping up with the latest versions, this actually is going to work for you better financially. For those of you who are running XP and Server and Office 2003, well, we've already discussed your impact on the economy and how, all these issues we're having are you. So it's going to become tougher in terms of there's going to be more and more incentives, more and more reasons to upgrade and to maintain that. So that's one of the big takeaways that I want you to have here. The second is that Microsoft is going to be more and more positioning this stuff as almost a service concept and less of a purchase of software. So you're going to see more and more, especially when we talk about Azure or Office 365 or CRM or any of the cloud-based Microsoft projects available on a cloud basis. You're going to see more and more of the ERP systems or other companies' ERP systems, all that kind of stuff. So the concept of it being less and less software and more service is going to be there. So from a budgeting standpoint, from a planning standpoint, if you're looking to maintain within a release or so of consistent, I'm keeping track with the latest, this is actually going to make your life much easier. If you're looking, however, to make that I've got this milestone and I'm not going to change for another 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you're actually going to find it much more difficult. Does that make sense? Okay. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of other companies doing it too. If you take a look at Autodesk won't even talk to you if you're three versions behind. You don't exist to them. Okay, so companies are getting more and more into that model of we want you to upgrade, we want the latest version, we're going to make it more and more difficult for you if you don't.
A little comic we found online, well, one of our guys found online, and he sent it to me last week sometime. When it comes to 8.1, everybody says, well, I didn't go to 8, it was too tablety. You couldn't even use it on a desktop. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't turn it on, I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't find my programs. So they added a start button back. That's number one. And to some, maybe that's not a big deal because I had the Windows key. So what? It is a big deal to a lot of people still. Device encryption. And that's going to matter to some people. It's not going to matter to everyone. Basically, when you have a device that you have business information on, people are carrying that device out, bringing it back, carrying it out, bringing it back, going overseas, bringing it back. And what happens if they lose it? What happens to your business information on that? Does it get to whoever? Or can whoever gets the machine not get into the information? Sure, they could format the drive and install Windows on it again, but what's important is your business information safe. So Windows 8.1 has the ability to all of the versions, not just the top-level enterprise with software assurance stuff, to do encryption on that. Obviously, the start button thing, once again, if that's not redundant, well, you'll see it a lot more, and when it actually comes out and people start using it, that's what you'll hear first. It's got a start button. I didn't know what to do before, but now it's got to start. I can look at my programs again. Search charm works through Bing. Now, there's this idea of charms, and I don't know if it'll come up on that side. No, it won't. With 8.1, with Windows 8 in general, actually, when you go to the Start menu, you have this ability to search stuff. Well, now that search not only searches your computer, but it also searches everything else if you want. Let's say you're looking for a city, or you're looking for a map of something, or you're looking for something that was in your documents related to a trip you took. Well, when you search, you can set it so that you can look through your documents on your machine, you can look through your SkyDrive, or it'll even search Bing if you want it to. You can't search Google, unfortunately. I can't, not a huge Bing fan, and I have to say Microsoft, and it works, and they do have the comparison thing, but I still haven't tried it. I still just use Google. More ways to see multiple apps on your screen. And this is kind of with Windows 8 as well. I don't know if anybody's used it. How many people have used Windows 8? Actually, a lot of you. So you know that there's a lot of different, you can swipe stuff around and split the screen, and they make that a little bit easier with 8.1. And really, they pushed a lot on user interface. So the user interface with 8 has been just, you can use it on a tablet, looks like it's for a tablet, install it on a desktop, you feel like you're supposed to be reaching up and touching the screen. It just didn't work real well. So now with 8.1, they restored a lot of the desktop view of things. So there's settings to, as I actually heard someone say before we started, there's settings to go directly to the desktop when you turn on your computer. So it's no longer that, well, I got this thing that I'm like swiping, like the Fox News. Like they want to swipe around on their monitor, but it's not touchscreen. Now it goes to the desktop, and that's a configurable setting using group policy. And when it comes to the business approach, you have a lot of settings, and you've always had quite a few settings in group policy that you can customize the way things look. You can lock stuff down so people can't get to specific things. Well, now you can customize these things so that your users have a consistent view, whether they're outside or inside, wherever they are. You know, if you have them, they have a desktop at the office, they have a laptop. If they're both running 8.1, they're going to get a consistent experience between those two devices.
And I want to point out something on this one. For those of us who are experienced, that means old. We remember when right around the turn of the century, right around when Windows 2000 came out, it was really hard to have any kind of management of workstations that were part of your network. All right? So users could muck things around, they could change things, they could do whatever, and it created a real hassle. With Active Directory, which is a corporate network tool, that gave them the ability to actually enforce rules as far as what end users could do and behave with. Well, now we're left, let's go 13, 14 years later. Now we've got these other devices, whether it be Windows Phone devices, tablets, all of that kind of thing, that end users have this other level of behavior, the look and feel. Is it going to be consistent? And now what we're adding from an IT pro standpoint, we're adding the ability so that they can enforce how the look and feel is going to be. So that in terms of supporting end users, they're all going to have pretty much consistent settings, if we want them to. Which from a support standpoint makes it a lot easier, because we're not letting end users, if we don't want them to, we're not letting end users totally become inventive on how they want their desktops and their tablets and their laptops to be. Okay, so it's similar to what we went through about 10 or 12 years, but it's on the tablet and device level.
We keep talking about this BYOD thing. It's not bring your own dog to work day, but it's bring your own device. And people have their own laptops, they're going out and buying them. Maybe you're not buying them new enough stuff. Maybe you refuse to buy them something, whatever it may be.
I didn't refuse. I said we're not ready. Okay? Just deal with it.
This laptop isn't really mine. No, I'm kidding. Anyways, I get to be bleeding edge, so I get to go try all this stuff. But basically, they've introduced a couple things, one of which is work folders. Basically, you can have a synchronized set of folders at work and those folders can synchronize with the outside non-domain joined device. Now, that's scary for some people, and I haven't quite figured out all the little pieces to lock down on it yet, but it is quite interesting that you can do that kind of synchronization, that kind of redirection on a device that's not even connected to the domain. And it's actually built into like Server Manager. When you look at your shares, there's another little option there that says work folders in 2012 R2 server.
Is that a potential to use the RT tablets?
That's, I believe so, and I can't say for sure because I haven't used it myself.
Yeah, I haven't used it, but according to the documentation, yeah. So let me piggyback onto what he's saying, because this, from an IT pro standpoint, this is big. This gives you file synchronization on a domain level to a device that's not actually joined to your domain. So you have control over it through group policy and the like. So if someone got a Windows Pro or RT tablet, but it's theirs, and you can then synchronize file shares so they can take their documentation offline. Again, if you want them to, and you specify the folders and all that good fun stuff, and work on stuff, and when they're back connected to the network, it synchronizes. Okay? If somebody wants to do that now, prior to this, it was iCloud, Dropbox, SkyDrive, which are all good products, but now we have something that'll actually do that to a degree with Active Directory. So we've got control over it we didn't have before.
Or you were giving access to machines that weren't connected to the domain that
Yeah, that's
you really didn't want to do.
But even then, you didn't have synchronization.
Right.
So
Does it appear to you that because you changed the machine?
yeah. I mean, right now, first of all, there was a videotape, and by that I mean a videotape. It was on a cassette, a VHS cassette, back in the early 90s that was talking about Excel, and Bill Gates was in it. A very ridiculous, and one of the comments he made was that he wants, whenever somebody clicks on an icon, he doesn't want them to care what program, where the data is, anything. He just wants it to respond. And he was one of the first people who actually said that kind of concept. And if you look at everything that has happened since then, including the industry, but even Microsoft, that has been their driving goal. Now add to it whatever your device platform is. So I've got my Windows 8 phone somewhere. I've got my tablet, laptop, desktop, server. They're all going to have the same approximate look and feel. Exact look and feel? Of course not. Because there are times where the functionality or the limits of the physical nature make it so that would be done. But the learning curve is going to be significantly minimal. In addition to that, if you expand to the industry wants you to have that same ability but cross-platform. So can you run Office on your iPad? Well, actually, Microsoft introduced an Office web app version application that's available on your iPad if you're in Office 365. Same thing for Droid. So they're looking for more and more because they don't want the user experience to be a horrible one of I have to learn everything.
Or you have to be a nerd to even use this stuff.
Yeah.
Which is easy for me, but you guys, it kind of leaves you out.
I beg your pardon.
And nerdettes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, and that actually pretty much covers the last point. It is that drive to be consistent across the board. And now it's demo.
While you're doing that, I
Just a
want to point
second.
out one other thing. This is a PC. Okay? This is a full-blown i3 processor. This has 8 gig. It'll go up to 16 gig of RAM. It'll go up to, it has a solid-state drive, HDMI, a couple USB, network cable, all that kind of fun stuff. This is a full-blown PC. It costs about $7,500 more than a traditional desktop. It's got the same level of power, obviously nowhere near the heat. It connects to what is, for all purposes, a laptop power supply.
Did you say 7,500?
Yeah, but I don't think he meant it.
What did I say?
Yeah, that's what he said, 1,500.
Oh. Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear. As far as price goes, these are around $600, $500-600, give or take, for starting. Okay. So you're actually seeing the physical nature of the desktop laptop PCs changing a little bit, along with tablets, along with mobile devices, and all that changing. So this is, it's an Intel. It's a NUC, N-U-C.
What's the monitoring connection?
HDMI. Yeah, it's got 2 HDMI ports, 2 USB 3s, a network, and you can also expand it beyond that. There's also expansion you can add to this. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's any.
The hard drive on this one is the low end. It's 64 gig. You can go up to 100 and... Okay.
Well, and they're the 2.5 inch like PCI Express. Excuse me, the PCI Express SSDs. Like they're not the full size 2.5 inch case SSDs. It's actually just like a board about that big, and it goes in there right next to the wireless.
Yeah, actually, I mean, obviously the form factor is a bit unique and a bit specific, but the pieces parts aren't. I'm
All
done.
right, I'm gonna play just a little bit.
Okay.
I won't go too far. See, I have a tendency, just because I do get to play with all the bleeding edge stuff, and by bleeding edge, you know, there's cutting edge technology, and then there's bleeding edge. There's me who goes out and gets all the beta stuff, and I'm trying it, I'm figuring it out, so that when it does come out, which I guess that would be this Friday, huh? I've been running it for 3 months. I always sit in the corner over here, and I'm probably playing on Windows 8.1, figuring it out so that when our customers, everybody gets it, then I can actually answer the questions. I changed this to be kind of, it's in duplication mode, so I'm looking at the same thing that's on the screen. You'll see down in the bottom left corner, see there's a little start image. It's that start button. And now I've actually, this is a setting, and it's not by standard this way, but again, in the settings, you can change it to be from the normal look of, you know, Windows 8 was, you got the start screen, it's just a few things, but even if you install the program, sometimes it didn't even show up. And then you're going, well, it's not on my desktop. And then I hit the start button because there's no start button on the screen. I had to hit it on my keyboard, and the program's still not there. Well, you can set it so that it actually, when you go to the start menu on that little start button, it shows all your programs. Now, when I move back and forth, it has the whole list, has all your accessories in the end, and it's inclusive. So when you're used to looking at a start menu that has all of your programs on it that you installed, it's all here again. And if I can make this go back, and if you look, the desktop view looks about the same as Windows 7 and as Windows 8 did if you had that. But first off, obviously the start button, but this can also be your first view when you turn on your desktop or your laptop. So unlike Windows 8, when it was a tablet, you know, I just turn on my computer, there's my desktop now. I have my desktop icon, even my recycle bin's there again. So you have that ability to make it more desktop-ish. One other thing, and if I can make this go away again, I actually have a couple accounts on this, and one of them, the one on the left, because you can't see my face at work, I guess. I don't know. I just don't have an image there. But one's my work account, and the other one's my personal account. So I actually have two separate logons. Same laptop, same software, same stuff on it, but I can go in here, and if I remember what I set this as, and
Everybody wrote that
it
down?
started clicking after a while. Now I'm back to my work view, and I have the work tools on here, and I have it set to go to start when I just log on, just because it's what I'm used to at work. And I have the start bar on the left side, and everything's completely different, but that's all settings that are set for me for my work stuff. As I said, I've used it for quite some time. In the beginning, the support for all the drivers and stuff wasn't great. Since it came out, RTM, which was 2-3 weeks ago, I want to say the third week of September,
Yeah.
so probably almost a month now. The actual final version of 8.1 came out. And of course, I had it the first day, and actually I want to say it came out at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Probably didn't sleep that night. I probably installed it along with the server version that night, just so that I can show up to work the next day with it, with burned copies, and go, oh, hey guys, this came out.
If you have Windows 8 set desktop mode, what does that buy you beyond Windows 7?
The 8 functionality, so you have the tablet stuff. So here's desktop mode, there's the charm bar, so it still has, you can set it as a standard to boot up to your desktop, but you still have the ability, just like my laptop, that I'm going to get to the office, open it up, use my mouse on the same screen, and still do the same things.
So if I don't care about that, do I have any reason to upgrade the Windows 8 one?
Here's the thing, is 8, let's talk just specifically the difference between 7 and 8 in general. 8.1, 8, kind of lump them together. All right, first of all, touch. If you have a tablet or you have a touch-enabled device, don't stop, go directly to 8. Absolutely, 100%. The interface is better, the experience is better, so on and so forth. If you have a Windows 7, or if you have a non-touch enabled device, a lot of the functionality, the visual functionality that you see for 8 is for tablets. So a lot of that stuff, you may look at it, it'll work fine for a non-touch enabled device, but it's going to work a lot better for a touch enabled. You have to really peel back the layers to say what's better in 8 versus 7, aside from that interface. If you look at some of the performance of pre-Windows 7 apps, actually works better in 8 than they do in 7. So if you had program compatibility problems with running XP programs on your Windows 7, there's a possibility it'll run better on 8 versus 7. The performance of hardware in terms of actually will be better on 8 versus 7. So Windows 8 uses memory much better, much more efficiently, uses power better, more efficiently, especially if the applications are built to take advantage of the stuff that's in 8. Okay, 64-bit in 8 works much better than 64-bit in 7. The drivers are tighter. So under the hood, there's a lot of performance issues that are going to be better. The search engine is significantly better and more robust. Now, all of those, here's the thing, and this is one of the conversations we're going to have next month when we talk about IT obsolescence. If you're warm and happy with your current environment, and you actually look at security issues, end of life, support, all that kind of fun stuff, and you're good, then what you've got is fine. So if you're not looking to upgrade your hardware, if you're not looking, then an upgrade from Windows 7 to Windows 8 isn't necessarily for you. Now, XP to 8, that's a different story, because there really are a lot of limitations as far as security and performance and all that on XP. we're asking, especially with a lot more of the social media and the multimedia stuff that's embedded into applications and us having 10 things running at the same time, XP doesn't do that well at all. 7 and 8 does. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Oh, the last thing I would add to this is if you've got a tablet, a Windows tablet, and you've got Windows 7 on a laptop or a desktop, you have 2 different interfaces and you have to go back and forth to them. If you use Windows 8 and Windows 8, the stuff synchronizes. So for example, by me logging on to my Windows, I just actually put my Windows experience or my Windows account on this. So I log in using my Office 365. It automatically downloaded apps, my settings, and my configuration from my tablet. I didn't have to reinstall everything. It did that, boom. So that my login screen looks exactly the same on this box as it does on this, and I didn't have to do anything to make that happen. Okay? So that's where you start seeing that, whether it's worth it or not, that's a totally different story. If we're looking to sell you software, of course it's worth it. My God, why are we even having this conversation? Please.
Thank you.
So if you have novice users who basically just want to use the apps, they don't want to care about how to reconfigure their desktops and know all the ins and outs and bells and whistles, and they're using Windows 7 in an office environment,
Mm-hmm.
would you now recommend forget trying to buy a laptop with Windows 7 still on it and actually buy a laptop with 8.1 because you're going to be able to set the desktop so it's transparent almost to that?
What's your feeling of taking off a Band-Aid? Are you a ripper or are you a gradual puller? You're a ripper? Because the issue is more and more applications, and now I'm talking applications, I'm not talking the operating system. More and more applications are going to come up with integration of touch-enabled systems. Okay, if you're looking, what's your expected lifespan of this hardware that you're purchasing? If your expected lifespan of this hardware is going to be 3 or 4 years, then you're going to be, if you stick with Windows 7, and I want to be straight here, I will argue against whatever you want to do. I will tell you why you're wrong. Okay, that's part of what we do, is we want to make sure that you understand both the benefits as well as the restrictions here. But if you make that investment, you're going to have well, we start out with 4 years old now, so you're going to end up with a 7-year-old operating system 3 years from now. Okay, and in a lot of companies who are running XP, that's exactly the situation you want to avoid. So, are you going to upgrade your operating system in 2015, 2016? Is now, since you're already upgrading and the hardware is not going to be the issue, it's going to be the software. So it's a judgment call, but it's one that is not a here and now question only.
You're not seeing any compatibility issues with running an Excel in 8.1 that you've got out of the office on a Windows 7 machine?
It's not going to be the Excel it's going to be the Excel version. It's not going to be the Windows version. So if you have somebody else who's running Excel 2003 and you're doing a worksheet in Excel 2013, that's more likely to have the issue than one is running an 8.1 and one is running now. Now, if you have a company that still has a bunch of XP boxes, they can't run Office 13 on an XP box.
Right.
So you're going to have to face that issue.
Do you foresee that tablets are going to, everything is constantly getting better.
Right.
So do you foresee that tablets are going to eventually take over laptops and laptops are going to be?
From a sales standpoint, they already are. Tablet devices.
You can't do everything on a tablet you can on a laptop, I thought.
Well,
You can't really save documents, you can't really put some
Absolutely.
attachments.
Absolutely. This tablet is Windows Pro. There's no difference between the software that's running on this and on that. No, I lied. I'm sorry. You got me.
Yeah, but okay, so let's say you need to type an old-fashioned letter or document or
Right.
whatever.
It's Word.
So
It's the exact same word. Now, what's happening and why this gets confusing is this is a Windows tablet running full-blown Windows. And if you, what was it, back in May, we did our which tablet, our shootout for tablets, and we showed here's a Droid tablet versus an iPad versus a Windows tablet. And Steve had the easy part. He was demonstrating a full Windows tablet, and he just kept on saying it's Windows. Because that's the answer. It runs full-blown Word. It runs the exact same software here. The problem is when you start talking about iPads and Droids, those are limited tablets. They don't have as robust software available. So you might have, or excuse me, you will have issues unless you buy additional software to emulate Word or Excel. And even then, it's not going to be as fully powered. So from a BYOD standpoint, if you can get the company to agree to just buy Windows tablets, your support issues are non-existent because they're all Windows.
How much do they run these days?
About
Windows tablets?
The low end ones are anywhere from like $400 or $500, and then they just go up from there.
yep.
It's $3,000, over $3,000 for Ultrabooks.
Yeah, it's essentially what's the cost of a laptop.
Okay.
Give or take, you're in that same ballpark. Now you can get an RT tablet, which is a Windows tablet, but it's dummied down for about the same or less than you get an iPad for. But as we talked about at that luncheon hour, they have some significant limitations on them. So my feeling from a company standpoint, if you can go pro, go pro.
Memory sticks on the tablets, so if you have a bunch of documents saved in an old laptop that you want to be able to then.
You have to look at the tablet, but almost all Windows tablets have USB ports. So yeah, you guys see those Microsoft commercials now where they do the side-by-side comparison about Surface versus iPad and all the things you can do. And it's a PC, so it has USB ports, it has Bluetooth, it has wireless, it has HDMI. It's Windows.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Are we running on it?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I have a tendency to, when I play with new stuff, I talk a lot about it. Getting yelled at over here. John's saying, server. Well, I didn't talk about server at all. And I did a little bit with work folders, and there are quite a few other enhancements on the server side, some specifically to do with Hyper-V, some others having to do with like file deduplication. For example, and this might be pretty high level, when you had virtual disks before saved, now deduplication can go inside those virtual disks and deduplicate all of that on all levels. So if you have a bunch of ISOs in a folder, previous version of Server 2012, it could deduplicate the ISOs themselves, but not within the ISOs. So there's quite a bit in 12R2 that's different, some of which is one of those we've kind of had should we go R2 already? Should we take that step? And our initial reaction is no, we don't want to put our customers on the bleeding edge. But at the same time, there is some stuff in 12R2 server that is almost worth taking that step.
Two of the areas that R2 is really trying to compete and build competitive advantages with, of course, one is virtualization. Okay, Hyper-V is going against VMware. All right, and I absolutely recommend that. And how many of you are IT pros? Okay, and how many of you are dealing with server virtualization? Okay, in a lot of cases, companies almost back into their virtualization standard choice. It's kind of like, well, yeah, we had this one server, we put it up there, so I guess, yeah, we're standardizing on that. All right. The challenge is you really need to take a step back and you need to evaluate what your high availability requirements are, what your monitoring and maintenance requirements are, and what your budget is. VMware is a fantastic product. I don't want to, and we've got clients who have it, we help support it, we do all that kind of thing, so that's absolutely fine. The thing about Hyper-V is, the price is not $7,500, I don't think.
No.
I think it's less than that.
Yeah.
It's $0. It's included with Windows, okay? And the licensing is such that it behooves you to look at that. And it's even becoming more and more valuable for small, and by small, I'm even talking single server, 1 or 2 server environments, where a Hyper-V implementation actually makes performance, high availability sense. Okay? So a lot of what they're doing in terms of the ease of migrating and the ease of maintaining and managing, and it's Windows. That's a big part of what happened with Server 2012, but even more so on 2012 R2. The other is, oddly enough, storage. It used to be when you started talking about Hyper-V or VMware and you wanted to talk about failovers and high availability, you kind of had to talk about SANs. And in terms of really managing your storage to a large degree, you were SANs was basically the way to go. And I think a lot of the enhancements that have happened on Server 2012 now means there's actually let the server, the Hyper-V, whatever the core server, let that actually manage the storage. And usually when you're talking about, I got my servers, I'm either going to be a whole lot of hard drives to buy, or I'm going to have this SAN. It was like this $30,000 chasm between the two. And now there's a lot more. There are a lot more manageable alternatives for that. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Well, and basically, it's more about sharing the storage of the stuff you have. So if you have 2 or 3 servers with 5 hard drives in them, and your consultant comes in and says, "Now you got to buy a SAN," you go, "Well, I got all these hard drives in these servers." No, you're not going to use them. Well, now you can use all those and use them for all 3 servers. It's almost, you can share all that server storage as you have been able to do with VMware with like virtual storage appliances, but now you can do it out of the box in Windows. When you buy a standard license for Windows Server, you already have virtualization that's free. It's built into that. You already have 2 server licenses you can install. So you can bring up 2 virtual servers on your Windows standard server that you just bought 1 license for.
Yeah. So if you have, let's say you need 2 servers operating within your organization, you can either buy 2 physical servers, in which case you're going to have to also buy 2 licenses of Windows Standard Server, 1 for each, or you can buy 1 a little bit bigger server, put Hyper-V on that, and then implement 2 Hyper-V systems on it, 1 license. So your software license cost is actually cut in half.
Or if it's going to be a lot more virtual servers, then you buy a data center license, which they did away with the enterprise. Now it's standard or data center, or that's storage and all that stuff. But those are your 2 main license models. Well, with data center, you can fire up as many virtual machines as you want. It's infinite. So if you have a server with 2 processors, big processors, lots and lots of RAM, lots of hard drives, you got this big server, you put 1 data center license on it. And then you can fire up as many virtual machines on that server as it'll handle. And you're within licensing. Well, and the main thing is, in most cases, yes, it's going to be covered under licensing because you're in a mode in which you're moving towards upgrading.
Yeah.
So actually right now until September 19th did it start, I believe, that there's a period whenever there's a new version of server that you can actually run both the previous version and the current version at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of in a migration mode.
Let's take that off. We can talk about it after.
It can go a whole lot of different directions.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
I'll sit down, let John go. I don't know.
Any other questions or anything? We'll probably be sticking around for a few minutes afterwards. Here's the short story from my standpoint. 8.1 versus 8, go 8.1. If you've got the option, fairly straightforward. When someone says, "Gee, I've got Windows 7, do I upgrade to 8?" My response is, if you've got if it's a touch enabled, absolutely. If it's not touch enabled, then I don't think you get as much bang for the buck necessarily. If, however, you've got a tablet, makes sense to have them all on the same. So you've got a laptop and it's all on the same. I also think from a corporate standpoint, from a company standpoint, the upgrades are going to come faster and faster. I think you're going to see more and more feature releases that are going to even happen between the 2-year periods, especially in things like Office, where Microsoft wants you to subscribe, whether it be through a license with software assurance or a license subscription or something like Office 365. So you're going to see more and more features that are going to be released. And they're going to be released. So if your company has found itself, and you'll have some choices whether or not to deploy them, but if your company has found itself in a position where we haven't upgraded in X number of years, or as we refer to it, the geological dig, where we've got these are on this level, these are on this level, these are on this level, you're gonna, in my opinion, you need to change your mindset and at least have a consistent strategy moving forward. And whatever strategy you choose, I guarantee there's going to be a day where you're going to wake up going, boy, that was the wrong way to do it. So,
That's one more quick
yep.
question. Since 8 was touch focused, do you have any ideas of what they're gonna try to focus for 9?
Yeah, absolutely. Motion. You already seen it. You saw that with the Kinect, with the Xbox. And what was the other thing we played with? Leap? Yeah, the Leap device, which is not Microsoft, but it's one of the devices which actually can tell by joint movement. So you're going to see more and more of this kind of thing. You're going to see more and more voice. And you're also going to see more and more devices that have no human interaction whatsoever, that are IP enabled and IP addressed. The IP toilets, okay, they have human interaction. But seriously, there's in Japan, there's a huge market for toilets that are completely programmable. And one of the major manufacturers actually included a Bluetooth app. So you could install an app on your Android that would allow you, it would measure your waste output, it would measure it would do tests, it would do all that kind of thing. It would also, what temperature do you like the seat to be at, all that kind of thing. And then they found out that you had to have a PIN in order to connect to the toilet, and they hard-coded the same PIN for every one of their toilets. So anybody who downloaded the app could connect to your toilet simply by being near your bathroom and can take over your toilet. I kid, but that's the kind of thing we're going to be looking at as far as security. You've seen some things on, about how easy it is to hack into cars. Anyway, thank you very much.
Well,
Thanks to Steve.
Steve Buckwald, everybody.